Hello, my beautiful dancer people. I wanted to talk to you today about a topic that came up when I was speaking with a fellow teacher. We share students, and we got to talking about this one student, and she said, "Oh, I feel so sorry for her because she's got that hard body." And what she meant by a hard body was that she was a little tight, less flexible, no real turnout, and her feet aren't that great. So I knew what she meant, and I wasn't taking issue with the idea that she had pointed that out, but I did take issue with the idea that comes along with that idea of someone who has a hard body. My concern was that as a teacher or teachers, we would begin to teach that issue, the issue of the lack of limited facility, which means that your expectation may be a bit different because it doesn't look a certain way. So I brought that up with her, and then as I came home, I said, "This is a great topic to discuss on the blog." So this is an issue that is very common and known and prevalent in our industry. Not only is there an aesthetic ideal, which is probably, depending on what area of dance you're in, whether it's commercial or concert, a look is important, be it thin or long and lean. But there's also the idea of the amount of facility that is preferred. And so that's that more flexible, open hipped, beautiful arches, supple feet, things like this. And these are real things that we have to contend with. And just like if you're not quote unquote thin enough or your hips are wide, not being able to get your leg up behind your head and have a cashew foot at the end is also an issue and can make you feel inadequate or even feel like you maybe shouldn't be in the industry. And that's not fair, and it's not even true. So when I say that it's not true, I'm not saying that the preference isn't real. That's a very real thing. But what's not true is that you can't have a career in this industry. There are numerous artists that could be considered limited in their facility that have had incredible careers. And it matters little. The point is that these adjectives of hard, easy, good, and bad do that thing in our heads where they label us and then we start to believe them and we start to be them. I'm going to tell you now where I stand on this concept of limited facility versus an abundance of facility. I say that it matters little in your body, in your practice, in your dancing. Your issues are your own and they are singular because you only live in your body. So what somebody else is working with, that's their bag. What you have to deal with, that's your business. And I'll tell you what I tell all of my students. And this is a technical aspect, and this is also an aesthetic aspect. The problems you experience in executing movement are generally not in your body. They're most often in your head and the way that you're thinking about what you're trying to do. That goes to the concept of whether your body is loose and facile or whether it's more restricted and tighter. You are just dealing with your set of circumstances and the way that you mentally approach them and your perspective on them will oftentimes dictate whether you are successful or not. Let me give you an example, a technical example of the issue being in your head and not your body. So your mind tells your body what to do. So essentially your mind is the GPS system for your body. If the GPS in your car gives you the wrong directions, you're going to end up in the wrong place. So the same is true of your mind and your body. So for instance, the best example I can think is for pirouettes. A lot of people, when they get to pirouettes, they're very excited and maybe anxious about turning. Understood. So you give a pirouette and most times people kind of like hurl themselves into it because they think, oh, I have to turn, and they fall out or they like completely implode. So what I like to do is I tell them, you know what, instead of thinking turn, because I can see that you are thinking to turn, think balance. And once they try it thinking balance, oftentimes the force is reduced and also the position is more refined, because when you're thinking to balance, you don't throw yourself at a balance, you approach a balance. The same is true of a turn. You have to approach a turn, not throw yourself into a turn. And the other thing that's really interesting is most people don't have problems turning. Most people have problems getting out of a turn. So when you're thinking about the turn only and you're not thinking about the exit, you get up there, but you can't get down. So now I say, okay, as you think about balance, now think about how you're going to exit, how you're going to get out. And all of a sudden, it kind of comes together in a different way. And it's a perfect example of where you put your focus or your intention is what you get out of it. And it will it can really change the approach, and therefore it can change the outcome of what you're trying to achieve. So I feel like the same is true when you're thinking about your facility. If you think, oh, I have a hard body, then guess what? Things are going to be hard for you. If you just go like, this is my body and this is what I have to work with, what do I have to do to get the best out of it? Now, if that's being diligent about stretching, if it's about trying to figure out how to create more space and length in your body, having conversations with your instructors so that they can give you some advice about how to approach things like that. Maybe it's not even going to happen in the studio. Maybe you need to take yoga, or maybe you need to take another form, gyrotonics or something, to help you get an openness or even a sensibility about the way you can release some muscles and engage others to give you more space and freedom in your body. Likewise for the flexible person. Most flexible people, they love throwing their legs around because it feels good. I know. But you don't want to think necessarily about the strength and control that you need to really control all of that freedom and that flexibility. Your body can get away from you. So they're opposite sides of the same coin. And my perspective is neither one is good or bad. It's just the situation that you live in, and you have to figure out how to handle and manage your situation. It brings to mind another conversation I had with a yoga instructor and my friend Leslie Journay, who teaches Iyengar yoga. And I was having a conversation about her doing some stuff with us on the blog, and she is very excited to have her coming soon. And she was relaying a story about when she was coming up. One of her teachers said, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You just have a lot of work to do. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. And it's true. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have a lot of work to do. Whether you're in a limited facility body or whether you have an abundance of facility body, honey, work is work and it has to be done. So I will say this to you. As a teacher, it is my intention to never make anybody feel limited, regardless of what they are working with. My job as a teacher, and I speak to teachers now, is to always help your students see the possibilities of themselves. And in order for us to do that as teachers, we really do honestly have to see the possibilities in them. The minute that you as a teacher don't believe that it is possible for a student, that energy and that belief is transferable, and they get it, and so they start to believe that. And we don't ever want to do that. We don't ever want to shut somebody down that way. So the problem is never in your body. You're not broken. The problem is in your mind. You just have to figure out how to get to the point that you want to be, and that's it. So work with that concept, and I will see you soon.